The President has forwarded to Congress the most comprehensive legislation to restore and protect our environment. But legislation will take time. And while they are waiting for the action and the protection of the law, the people have begun to clean up the land on their own. And the response of government and the response of business is a response to what the people are demanding, and this is the American system working at its finest. That's a good sign. What is even better is that Americans are no longer sitting back and saying, let the government do it. They are willing to do it themselves, and they are doing it. There wasn't much unusual about that story, except that he was only 21 years old, and he was killed on his third tour in Vietnam. That's a lot of war for anybody, especially a 21-year-old. Now, while there's much yet to be achieved, everywhere the signs are hopeful that real progress is being made in the battle against pollution. In the same fashion, there's concern for the quality of consumer goods in America. And in the same fashion, the people are making themselves heard. And the government is communicating that concern. It is writing it into the books of law, and commerce and industry are responding. But it's not the concrete issues that are so instructive here. It's the overriding fact that people have before them a concern for the quality of life we live in this nation. They want it to be equal to our greatness, worthy of a free people, worthy of our vast industrial power, worthy of our technological ingenuity, and of a nation which in virtually every field has set the standard by which other nations judge their own success in the 20th century. That
And we do have indications that the North Vietnamese are making significant deployments in certain areas where we would expect the action to take place in the event they choose to do so. In other words, the South Vietnamese don't intend to be surprised. One might ask, why are they doing this? Obviously, I think the North Vietnamese objectives are more political than they are military, in the sense that they would like, for instance, to certainly once again, as they have done successfully so many times in the past, have an impact on American public opinion, particularly during an election year. They would like to have a advantageous situation, at least according to worldwide reports, when the president goes to China. They would like to more or less you might say discredit the Vietnamization program, and they would like to perhaps give the South Vietnamese a feeling of more or less a lack of confidence. All these things I think they might have in the back of their mind, but on the other hand, as I said, the South Vietnamese have made significant improvements in their military capabilities, and so the North Vietnamese are going to find out that this is not a very easy problem.
Factor, this waterway will be the first navigation public works project of its kind to build within the framework of our new environmental protection guidelines. And we welcome this challenge and this opportunity to illustrate that we can enhance our environment and at the same time enjoy much needed economic benefits for all of our citizens. It brings us together for the sake of mankind, all people.
Let's give this a best in business. Where's Darlene?
Contempt. Couldn't get any money, couldn't get any... would pull a switch and have the detonation go off.
Moment, because we are in the process now of presenting the President.
On the 25th of September, we departed Hanoi. Subsequent overnight stops at Nanning, Peking, Moscow. Arrived in New York the night of 28th September, which time I was reunited with my family and, quote, recaptured. I'd like to discuss again the topics that I mentioned that I think are of importance. In regard to my recapture, to say that I am happy and to say that I'm glad to be back with my family is a complete understatement. The fact that we've been reunited, the fact that we're together, the fact that I saw my family that night is the most wonderful thing that's ever happened to me, and it truly was the farthest thing from my mind at the time that I was told I was going to be released. I have been very honored to be a part of an Air Force plan and program which is now in effect for the repatriation of further prisoners of war. I've been involved in this program at its base level now. I've seen a tremendous amount of it. It's a heck of a good program. I feel like the more time I can spend in it and the more I can do in it to make the time that future prisoners of war will have to spend through this kind of a program, to reduce that time is a tremendous responsibility of mine, and that's what I'm trying to do.
nice visit with Governor Wallace, and I want to let the people of the country know that I think he's made a tremendous amount of progress since I had a chance to visit with him briefly at the Southern Governors Conference. He looks much stronger. Of course, he's still not entirely comfortable, but he's exhibiting an immense amount of courage, and I'm very pleased that he could see me today.
How would you assess the Republicans' chances in the South?
Oh, I don't know. I think they have a better chance than they've had before.
Why is that, Governor?
Well, just from the polls. I read the polls and see the polls. Of course, I'm not taking any part in the presidential campaign, and might a little later on, but I'm not sure about that. I'm still getting well. I still recuperate. So many X dollars will go to this particular program or that particular program, but we have had discussions with the budget officer, the finance department, and I'm going to also meet with the legislative committee that's been meeting of the House Ways and Means Committee and the Finance and Taxation Committee of the Senate, and of course any other legislators who are interested. But I would say broadly and generally that we will use this money for purposes that such as mental health, the prison system. We will use it for humanitarian causes. We have much work yet to be done in the field of aiding the handicapped, the rehab programs, the blind, some non-federally assisted programs in the welfare department. That would give the Democratic and Republican committees and any other party time to call a primary if they so desired, in order that those elected to these 5 vacancies might be elected in the most democratic manner. The committee can handpick if they want to in a county, but we're going to, and we're not trying to recommend to the committee what they ought to do.
I think that it amounts to nothing more than a political reprisal on the part of some people. My feeling is this, that I have the responsibility as Chief Probation Officer of the Montgomery Court to protect and look after the interest of children. The state of Alabama has done a poor job in providing services for delinquent and neglected children, and there had to be some relief somewhere, and I think this is the most expedient way I know to get relief. I know a lot of folks want to sit around and say, well, things will get better, but they don't get better until somebody is willing to, stand up and speak out for the rights of children. And this is a problem. We have no child advocacy system in Alabama. There's nobody to speak out for the welfare of children, and somebody has to do it.
Mr. Abbott, did you confer with Judge Thetford before you filed this suit?
Not this particular suit. However, he was aware of the problems that existed that I alleged in the complaint. In fact, he had expressed an interest in trying to rectify some of those things, but he was quite aware of the problem.
You said that the children in this state who are homeless and who have delinquent problems were not being cared for properly. Could you briefly describe a particular situation which led you to file this suit?
We have many children that we've seen in our court who come to the court who are dependent and neglected children, really, living in the most destitute circumstances you can imagine, but yet those children have no place to be put to provide adequate care and treatment. The state of Alabama, to my knowledge, has no facility, operates no facility for the care of dependent and neglected children. All the child caring institutions we have in Alabama are those that are private, and they take those they want to take and refuse those they don't want to take.
It's about Alabama politics. What could it be? I'm going to talk about my race for representative in 1950 and the alternate delegates race when I went to Chicago and I grabbed that big old Sparkman for vice president, Sparkman for Veep, and I marched all around that convention hall in Chicago, and the Montgomery Advertiser came up and said I cavorted all over the convention hall. And people back in Alabama didn't know what the word cavort meant, and they thought I'd use the bathroom. Don't you see what I mean?